All right, it is 10 o'clock, so hopefully the other two people that we were looking for will attend and we won't get too out of order. So from confirmation, I do have an opportunity for a member to put a motion on the floor. So we are looking for a chair and vice chair for 2021. So if you want, Scott, Jennifer, Mike, if you wouldn't mind putting a motion on the floor, just confirming. All right, it is 10 o'clock, so hopefully the other two people that we were looking for will attend and we won't get too out of order. So from confirmation, I do have an opportunity for a member. Sorry, I have Zoom going on in the background just as well. If you wouldn't mind putting a motion on the floor to confirm your chair and vice chair for 2021.
Bob, I'm happy to move that Denny be our chair for 2021 and yourself, Bob, be our vice chair.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? I can't vote. Okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
That's good. We're good to go for 2021, and hopefully it'll be a little more less crazy than 2020 was. Okay, with that, as the vice chair and chair for this session, I will call the meeting to order. I see we have our committee here. We have staff members, and the first application is a 2020 103 840 Sterling Avenue South. If there's anyone here in support or opposition, hopefully you can log in.
Hi, Rob. Are you able to unmute your microphone?
Yep.
Okay. I see the applicant is here. Robert, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Saikunovic.
Saikunovic. Okay. Well, Robert, have you had a chance to read the staff report?
I have, yes.
Do you have any comments or questions regarding that?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Just need to get a building permit, and we're in the process of doing that, so that's perfect.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee? Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question for staff. I have no objection at all to this application. The recommendation from staff includes the words "as amended." I couldn't find anywhere in the report the fact that this was being amended. Are those words required?
For you, Mr. Chair, it was amended prior to the report being completed. The application was amended. So that's why it was mentioned. Let me just see from the planner. I have some notes here from the planner that I'd like to just review and make sure that I've got all the information correct. Just a moment, please.
Sure thing.
Yeah. It's hard because I don't have another screen to switch to, so I'm using my phone. Okay. So that was the Sterling, yeah. Okay, so it was amended to reflect that the roofed overhang is existing. The original language suggested to permit the overhang, but it's really to legalize the overhang because after a site inspection, staff observed that this was existing. So we just wanted to provide clarity that it's not something new, it's something that's already there. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds good to me. Any further questions or comments?
I'm happy to move the recommendation from staff then, Mr. Chairman.
Jennifer seconding that? You're muted, Jennifer. Unmute. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a seconder. All in favor? Motion carried.
Perfect.
Next application is, where is it here? A 2020-104-114 Peach Blossom Crescent, a rear yard setback. Seems fairly straightforward to me. Is the applicant here?
I'm here.
Matt?
Actually, I'm Sean. I'm the agent for Matt.
Oh, I see. Okay, Sean, that's great.
Yes,
Obviously, I'm assuming you've had an opportunity to read the staff report.
Yes, sir, I have.
Any comments, questions?
Just that we agree.
That's good. Yeah, it does seem fairly straightforward. Rear yard setback, a minor variance to accommodate sunroom. This is not a condition, but of course, you know you will need to get a building permit at some
Absolutely.
point in the
Yes,
process.
sir.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Not seeing any.
Just
So-
suggesting that this is a fairly standard issue because of the lot dimensions and the lot angles that have created the variance requirement.
Yes, sir.
And based on that, I have no problem in moving that the application be approved as submitted.
Okay, a seconder. Jennifer is seconding that. All in favor? Motion carried.
Great. This is very convenient, by the way.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Okay, next application is
you.
A 2020-105, 39 Water Street North. Is the applicant here?
Hi, I'm here. My name is Rachel.
Okay, Rachel, that's great. Oh, I lost something here. Okay. Have you had an opportunity to read the staff report?
Yes, I did.
Any comments or questions?
Nope. Looks pretty straightforward.
Okay. I do have a question actually for Julianne. Can you refresh my memory on the difference between a group home and a lodging house?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, a group home is a facility that I believe there are the patrons that are in there, they require some form of supervision or care, whereas the lodging house are just rooms that are rented out to the individuals. That being the latter is what this particular application is for. I do have the file planner on the call as well if you have any other specific.
Yeah, I have one further question. I took a look at the area via the city's OnPoint mapping system. And can someone maybe give me an idea? The variances that we're looking for is the distance from the next lodging house, which is supposed to be 400 meters, and this one's 260. So where is the nearest lodging house? Or maybe that's, we don't know that. Andrew.
For you, Mr. Chair. The closest lodging house is about 260 meters away on Water Street. It's very close to the intersection of Water Street at Weber.
Give me a minute. Water and Weber. Okay. Yes, I see that. Okay. I guess one last question from me is the nearest one is 260 meters. Are there others? Well, how many are there in the downtown area? I guess it really doesn't matter, but I just like to know how concentrated our downtown is getting with lodging houses.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't believe we have that information on hand. And the idea is that we want to encourage these uses wherever they're needed. And this distance was put into the bylaw at quite some time ago, and probably right now the similar types of distances aren't things that the city would necessarily consider at this point in time, because we want to make sure that they are free to locate where the need is.
Okay, sounds good to me. Any comments or questions from the committee? Scott.
Just very quickly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the applicant or staff, how many lodgers are involved here?
Rachel?
So currently there are 4 that we're looking at, but it could accommodate up to 5.
Okay, And another question for staff. I'm going to assume that parking spaces can be stacked for lodging houses?
Through you, Mr. Chair, do you mean by stacked, do you mean tandem parking spaces?
Correct.
The bylaw does permit in the downtown parking spaces to be in tandem, subject to an agreement that signage be posted that the one vehicle may have to be moved in order for the other vehicle to gain access to the street. So I would recommend an additional condition that simply says that the owner shall enter into an agreement to be registered against the title of the subject property to require the owner to post and maintain signs to give notice that vehicular access to Water Street may necessitate the moving of another motor vehicle due to the tandem parking arrangement to the satisfaction of transportation services.
That sounds reasonable to me. How does that, Rachel, how does that sit with you? That you're going to have to put up a sign to let people know that it's tandem parking.
Are we putting up the sign on the property itself or just on the lease agreements?
I think the recommendation from Andrew is that you put a sign in the driveway saying it's tandem parking and have to enter into an agreement with the city that that's a requirement. Shouldn't be too difficult, should it?
I don't think so. It should be
Okay.
okay.
Does that work for you, Andrew?
It sure does.
Okay, good. Any further comments or questions from the committee? Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, first to the applicant and then to Ms. von Westerholt or Mr. Pennell, the Metrolinx conditions. First of all, the applicant, you're comfortable with those conditions?
Sorry, remind me again what the Metrolink conditions are?
I'm not sure if you have them. They're lengthy. I'm not sure if it's worthwhile for me to read them to you, but essentially, the proponent is recommended essentially to obtain a noise and vibration assessment. And secondly, that you grant an easement, environmental easement over the property for emissions and spills and such.
If it's required, then I would do whatever it takes to convert this into a lodging house.
Scott, you have a comment?
I'm going to jump on with Jennifer. I actually had that same, ask that same question of staff. I was having issues with those conditions and wondered if staff was aware of them and whether they would mindfully not put them in as a condition and simply ignored them.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question for staff. Have we ever seen these conditions before? I don't recall seeing anything like this, and it seems like it's a dangerous precedent and really unnecessary. This is an existing house in an existing neighborhood, so just, yeah, I was also seeking your feedback on that.
Julianne?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I agree that these are not typical conditions, and it's the first time staff has ever seen something like this. I think we can parallel this with some of the conditions that some of the utilities have tried to do over the years, as well as the rail. They are other property owners. That's the way city has viewed them, and not as other agencies, the way, say, the region would be or the GRCA would be. These are other property owners in the area. So I don't believe that we've typically applied these types of conditions. I definitely don't remember any point in time that, in my 14 years on as the coordinator for this, that we've applied these types of conditions before. I hope that's helpful to the committee.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, that's very helpful for me, and it sounds like well, I'm on the same page with other members as well. So assuming we're not going to be imposing those conditions, I just have one additional comment on the conditions in the staff report. I understand there's going to be a further condition I think it should be probably condition 6, not condition 7, requiring an agreement that is registered on title. I'm recommending that condition 5 be wrapped into that agreement, so that it's an acknowledgement in perpetuity that runs with the land. So I think that's a minor change, and then condition 6 would become condition 7 and say that conditions 1 through 6 shall be completed prior to September. So that's my recommended revision to the conditions.
Scott.
I fully support what Jennifer just did, and I was going to make a comment that I thought most of the variance being requested were technical, dealing with the fact that where the house sits on the lot right now. The two primary conditions really were parking and the separation distance. I have no issue with the separation distance, and the parking is now being covered by the agreement. So when the time comes, I fully support the application subject to the conditions as amended by Jennifer.
For you, Mr. Chair, I don't mean to interject, but we did have somebody registered in opposition for this item, and they have just entered the meeting right now. So Christian is now here. If you wouldn't mind, please letting him address the committee before we move on to any motions.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. Christian, I see you're there. Can you hear us?
Okay. I can, yes. Thank
you.
I'm here with my wife, Beth.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to read the city staff report?
I have not, no. I've had unless that's the letter that was sent to us with the number of variance pieces that they wanted applied, but I haven't read, I know that I talked to Diane Saunders yesterday, so I have whatever, she sent me the Zoom link.
Okay. What is your concerns about this?
So we live at 47 Water Street North. We're 2 doors down. And I want to be clear too, my wife and I have been heavily involved in the downtown community for a long time. We've lived in that property for 20 years. My wife's one of the founding members of the DTKNA, which is the Downtown Kitchener Neighborhood Association. She sits on the advisory board to the CTS. I'm one of the co-founders of CivTech. We helped do public hearings with Sanguine and the CTS. We're certainly not NIMBYs. I've worked with senior management at Reception House and helped resettle refugees into our neighborhood and bring after school programs to St. John's, which is of course right down on the corner. So, certainly community involvement has been, a big part of our lives and what we do in downtown Kitchener. My concerns with the property are a couple fold, and I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. So one of them is, the potential personal impact on us as neighbors to this property. Certainly, lodging houses and the restrictions around them are obviously not as heavy as they would be on something like a duplex or a triplex. The ability for people to move in and out of that house really takes away from the community that we have in the downtown core. Our neighbors have 2 kids. The building at the Alexandra has numbers of kids that live there. To put it also within that close a distance of the CTS, well, maybe not concerning with the folks who live in the house now. This is a bill, from what I understand, this is sort of a bell that can't be unrung. And my concern, having housing that is lodging housing that close to the CTS, to me would be, it's difficult for us to see how we're going to build community with that there. The other part of it too that I want to address is that I know, and certainly the work that I do at Civic Tech is around things like affordable housing. I know that lodging houses have been, put forward as an idea for affordable housing. One of the things that's difficult for me with that is that I don't feel that it actually addresses the problem. I think the inclusionary zoning piece does, but when it comes to actual affordable housing, the property owners can actually squeeze more money out of a lodging house than they could out of a duplex or a triplex, which in the end just means that it'll drive the actual price of the house up because you can get more per square foot out of a lodging house and with less oversight and with less regulation as well in terms of kitchens and bathrooms and all of those types of things. So for us, it's not the folks that live in there now that are a problem. I think that they've been great. We've had no problems with our neighbors. But my concern is for the future and the future of that property and what that would actually mean and how that would impact our downtown neighborhood. Sorry. And this is my wife, Beth, too. I don't know, is she allowed to say anything or is it only me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we've seen what the rooming house down the street is like. I wouldn't want to see that repeated 2 doors down. I don't think we need to squeeze that many lodging houses in our neighborhood. Maybe they should be spread around the city a little bit more. I'm also seeing, like, I'm sure everyone has seen a lot of kind of new people coming in, using the services in our area in the last few years. It speaks to the drug crisis, of course. From my own point of view, you know, I felt that the neighborhood has become a little bit less safe. You know, I don't want to walk alone at night anymore. I used to be able to do that. And I wouldn't want to see that sort of more new people and always changing people in the neighborhood living 2 doors down. I'm not sure that would necessarily make the neighborhood less safe, but it definitely could. So those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you for that input. Maybe some comments from staff as to the concerns raised by Christian and his wife. So Julianne or Andrew? Julianne, go ahead.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just be brief. I can understand the concerns that were raised by Christian, and sorry, I didn't catch your wife's name, but certainly empathetic to the concerns that you have. The reason why the number was put in is not something that necessarily planning would do today. For that is to people zone or to kind of regulate where certain groups of people live is not necessarily would not necessarily meet human rights regulations, and it's something that will likely be not carried forward in the future in terms of requiring a separation distance from one lodging house to another. The intent, of course, is to allow people to live where they're able to. I do understand and appreciate your concerns. So Andrew may have a little bit more information. So I see he's also on the call. And I just want to just throw that out there that we can't really people zone in terms of, okay, we can't have them this close because there could be a problem with the residents that are in there. And I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention.
Andrew.
Yeah, just to add on to what Julianne said, I completely agree with what she said. The zoning is not intended to regulate the user, only the use. And in this particular case, we're finding that that lodging houses actually do provide a form of affordable housing or more affordable housing. And I concur that we'll be looking to likely reduce or eliminate that 400-meter separation distance in the future as the city.
Christian, you have a comment. Unmute. You're on mute. Christian.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, and I just I wanted to sort of address that question with you there, Andrew, around affordable housing and the idea that a lodging house is affordable housing. If in terms of like actually providing affordable housing, are we not actually just driving the price of a house up? If I can buy a single family dwelling and turn it into a lodging house without those types of conditions on it, and I don't have to go through the rigor or the apparatus to actually make it a duplex or a triplex, does that not actually mean that I can get more money per square foot out of a house? And does that not actually drive up the price of a single family dwelling?
I think there are going to be things that that the owner is going to need to do. Some of the conditions outlined in the report will require fire inspections and building permits to be issued in order to properly convert this house into a proper lodging house. And so whether the owner is making more money per square foot is not the issue. The cost of a lodging unit is always going to be cheaper than the cost of a single detached dwelling or of a dwelling unit within a duplex for that matter. It's
certainly, but I mean, sorry, to that point, I mean, we bought our house for $113,000 20 years ago in the downtown core, and I was able to do that I was working in manufacturing at the time, and do that on a salary that I could when I was 20 some years old. And that was wonderful. The real problem in terms of like being able to own property and buy property is that the price is being driven up by how much it costs per square foot. How much can we squeeze out of an income property, right? And so I don't think that this is actually a long-term strategy. I think inclusionary zoning absolutely is, and I think that there are other ways around it. Again, this is obviously not going to sway this this group here, but I do think that there's more to the lodging house conversation than what's being discussed here. And I think it's really people who are looking for income properties and who are going to, we live in a capitalist society. We're going to squeeze every dollar we can out of every square foot. So I believe that this lodging house stuff is actually going to come up a lot more because there is less rigor around it than there is around duplexing and triplexing. Otherwise, that building down there would become a duplex or a triplex as opposed to a lodging house. This is really the biggest play for the highest amount of money, quite frankly. Sorry, I'll stop now. Thank you.
Okay. As has been brought forward by staff, we can zone properties, we can't zone people. But I understand some of your concerns. But at the same time, I believe there is a need for lodging houses for people who can't afford to buy a nice house in the downtown core. So there's a specific market out there. And I don't think it's all money driven. I think it's fulfilling a need within the community for not the homeless, but for people who may not have that job in manufacturing and may not be able to scrape together hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy their own place. So, and I think I'll leave it with that. Is there any other comments from the committee? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend the delegation for your comments and obviously your activity and your involvement in planning in the core. I wish we had more people like yourself getting involved. That's terrific. You haven't had an opportunity to review the staff report, and there are lots of conditions that this applicant has to go through in order to achieve the lodging house status, including, as the planner was mentioning, building permits, fire inspections, lodging house licensing, etc. So I think the rigor on this, part of my requirement looking at this is just to determine whether the variances meet the 4 tests. I have come to the conclusion that they have, subject to the conditions that are being recommended by staff. So on that basis, I'm going to move the recommendation from staff, subject to the conditions that we discussed, it seems like about 10 or 15 minutes ago, by Jennifer, unless any of the committee members have any comments.
Jennifer, you have a comment?
I do. I just wanted to again thank the delegate for your comments and your contributions to the community. I do find it counterintuitive to suggest that income housing will make housing less affordable. What we do know is that we have, again, a provincial mandate for allowing for rental housing, various forms of housing, and affordable housing is key. You mentioned inclusionary zoning. That's one of many tools that the province is trying to pass on, including intensification, lodging houses, secondary suites, so on and so forth. There's multiple actions that are being taken to try and improve affordability. And I just don't know of any empirical evidence to suggest that allowing this lodging house is going to in any way affect affordability or counter affordability. I don't also know of any again, back to the whole point of people zoning, suggesting that allowing multiple people to reside in one building will lead to safety issues. Again, I don't think there's any evidence of that. Again, we're trying to use land efficiently, intensify, and get people into their own units. So for the same reasons as Mr. Hanna, I will support the application. I'll second the motion with the amended conditions.
Through the chair, do you mind just if I can confirm the decision of the committee prior to voting? So I have conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 that stand as written in the report, and condition 5 and the one proposed by Andrew will be included in the agreement.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Except I believe condition 6 will now become condition 7, and it will say 1 through.
Yes, I will renumber accordingly as I'm going to put the agreement above it so that the conditions will be succinct.
And then I believe through you, Mr. Chair, condition 5 will be worded similarly to new condition 6 so that it's dealt with through an agreement register on
condition 5 in the same agreement condition just to help out legal services. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we will not impose Metrolinx conditions.
Sorry, I missed that. We're going to ignore the Metrolinx conditions?
That's how I understood it.
Okay, I think that's good.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from Scott, which is seconded by Jennifer. Any further comments? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next application is A 2020-106, 1031 Victoria Street North. Applicant, anyone in support or opposition, please log in. That would be Nick. Do I see Nick here? Yes, I see Nick is here. Good. Nick, have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes, I have.
Any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee? Scott.
Mr. Chairman, there was a letter of opposition on this particular application dealing with outside noise. It appears that the fitness center was using the back area for part of its use. I've just had a question for staff. Is that something that is allowed for a fitness center to be able to use the exterior and have music?
Just a quick comment. The music was inside they have an overhead door that they had in the back, and they run laps around the building.
Okay. Julianne, do you have any comments as to Scott's question?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm unaware of activities, whether in or out, because it's not something that I was informed about. However, I'm wondering whether, and I'm throwing this out to perhaps to the applicant, whether or not outside activities were kind of a little bit of a result of the pandemic and having to stay, a certain distance away from others rather than being indoors, and whether or not that contributed to the opportunity for them to stay open during the pandemic. I'm just asking the question. So
yeah, that had the pandemic had a major impact on that. So they decided to do more outdoor activities, so that way they can keep fit instead of closing.
Sounds logical to me. I have a question for staff. If I read this correctly, what the applicant is asking for does meet the new zoning bylaw, but it doesn't meet the old 85-1, which the new one's still under appeal. Am I correct in that?
through you, Mr. Chair, that was the situation at the time. The Crosby bylaw has now been approved by the LPAT. So that was a recent development.
Oh, good. So we don't have this ongoing conflict between Crosby and 85-1 moving forward.
Except for in residential zones, but other than that, that's right. Thank you.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, any further, Scott, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with my initial question. The reason I had asked it was I was familiar with other zoning bylaws across the province where commercial type activities were restricted to being inside, except for, say, temporary use during the summer where you could have a patio or things like that. So I'm trying to acknowledge the concern of the resident next door with the noise. I was even thinking of imposing a condition that it be restricted to inside, but I'm on the fence. I'm not sure what to do anymore because of the pandemic, but it certainly would be, in my view, quite obnoxious if somebody was blaring music in my backyard.
I'm going to chime in on that for a minute, Scott. There are other processes that can be taken, such as calling the bylaw if there is noise that is, you know, after whatever time at night or early in the morning. I think restricting, I think we're walking down a steep road here if we start restricting what activities can be done, especially in regards to things like the COVID we're facing now. So I'm not so sure I would like to add an extra condition in there, but that's up for the committee to decide.
Yeah, I don't think I'm heading that way either, Mr. Chairman. It's just I thought staff was going to tell me there was some type of restriction already in the bylaw. I have no issue with the use, both uses being proposed. I'm familiar with this property because I drive by it quite a bit going to Canadian Tire. So I've seen it change uses many, many times. So anyway, I am supportive of the uses. So.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll need a motion to approve with the two conditions.
I'll bring that motion.
Second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next application is A 2020-107, 236 Margaret Avenue. Anyone in support or opposition, hopefully you can log in. From what I understand, this is to convert vacant commercial spaces to residential with some additions out the back. I think there are a number of people who may want to chime in on this. So to the applicant, Pierre, I see you're here. I'm assuming you have read the staff report.
So I have, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Pierre Chauvin with MHBC Planning, here in support of the application. And with me, I think Stephen Litt, who is with the Vive Development, is also on the line. He's listening in and can answer questions if they do come up. Certainly have read the staff report, support the recommendation. We are aware of some last minute comments and concerns that were raised, a lot of which we believe are stemming from the existing condition of the building, which we obviously hope to improve with this development. I think you've all seen the site plan that is in the staff report. I can share that on a screen if you'd like to get a better view, particularly for those who are in attendance. But what I would say is that at the end of the day, this is a net improvement to the current, it will be a net improvement to the current situation. And in fact, our client has had to go to the expense of acquiring additional land from the city for a rear laneway to help improve the current parking situation on the property. I think with those comments, I'll leave it at that, and perhaps I'll wait to respond to any comments or questions from the committee and any comments that come from the public.
Okay. I see we have Mr. John Arnold here, who is in opposition to the application. And there were a number of emails that have come in from people within the neighborhood. So Mr. Arnold, to you, sir, have you had an opportunity to read the staff report?
I've gone over it. After some discussion with Lisa Thompson yesterday, I found out that the site plan that I got from her was a little more explaining what is going on with the place. I am concerned with the place in the condition that it's in, and Pierre has just said that this is going to be the improvement. This has been a sore spot, hot spot for our neighborhood for many years. Hopefully this change will be for the better. And as for the variances and that, I don't have a concern for those. It's mainly of what will happen once this project is completed.
Okay. I'm guessing from what I see on the screen here, you're the only one that is joining in today for a discussion on this in opposition. I should note for the record that there are 2 emails that have come in from neighbors in opposition. I think the rest of the committee has seen those, and I'll just say that that should be considered as part of the process here. I do have a question, actually, to Pierre, or to maybe to Mr. Litt if he wants to chime in, or to Mr. Arnold. I've driven by this place a number of times over the years, and the 2 front commercial places have been vacant for a long time. Like, we're talking 10 plus years?
Decades, for sure. Yep. Yeah,
okay,
this
thanks.
Simply,
thanks, Steve.
I'm here, guys. Sorry. Yeah, without a doubt. So it's a, John, we totally identify this as a distressed property, needs some love. You can look up 5 Development, some of the fairly substantial renovation projects we've taken on over the years. Our intention is to make this a renovated top to bottom, something that's going to contribute to the neighborhood, not to detract from it, with regards to the commercial like grade. So yeah, it was built in a time when there was sort of a use for neighborhood small commercial, and it just unfortunately that big box stores and such have sort of driven our commercial out of these neighborhoods from major nodes and corridors. So as opposed to it being empty, it makes sense for us to rejuvenate the space and put eyes on the street and convert them to apartments. So that is our plan here. As Pierre mentioned, we acquired some land in the process of from the city to expand the parking and install new landscaping, fencing, all of that sort of thing. Again, it will contribute, not detract. Hopefully that kind of makes sense.
I'm kind of in agreement with Mr. Litt. I would think that anything that is occupied is better than something that's vacant. Better land use, people will look after the property. It's been, as Mr. Arnold has said, it's been a kind of a sore spot in that part of the city for quite some time. So moving along, is there any questions, comments from the committee on this? Scott.
Quickly to the applicant, I'm seeing 2 versions of the site plan in the staff report. And I want to know which one is the correct one. One has 2 handicap parking spaces out the front with some stacked parking or tandem parking along the southerly lot line, and the other one has 1 handicap parking space. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't see 2 site plans in my package, but the figure that is in my report, my version, which is on, I'll call page 2 of 7, is the correct site plan.
Okay, and quick question for staff. What's the status of the site plan application and the 0.6 parking per unit? What does that equate to? I'm guessing 10. I just want confirmation of that, 10 parking spaces on site.
For you, Mr. Chair, I believe the original intent was to have 10 spaces, but I thought it came down to 9. Pierre, is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct, yeah. In the interest of, we could have achieved 10, but staff wanted more landscaping to along the frontage of Margaret. So we sacrificed the space.
Scott brought a question on as to which site plan is the one with the one parking space. What does it say here? A barrier-free parking space. That is it, one or two that we're going to have?
One.
Okay, so that's okay. So that's out. Okay.
And so we've got one visitor space as well. I'm trying to understand what is being applied for. We got one visitor space, one handicap space, correct?
There are two barrier-free spaces. If I can share my screen, Diana, is that possible?
Sorry, it's not.
Oh, okay. Well,
I have the site plan that Lisa Thompson forwarded out yesterday to Mr. Arnold. I can share it with the committee members if there's concern.
Okay, I think Pierre, I understand now that the one that's noted as a V on the south side of the building also has a handicap. It
correct.
Just didn't print very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And what are the size of the units we're talking about here?
I think I will defer to my client on that.
Great question. It'll be a mix of, there's a number of existing, I would say 750 square foot, 2-bedroom units. And then the smallest will be about approximately 500 square foot for 1 bedroom. We see huge demand for small 1-bedroom space locally for all sort of demographics, ranges and sizes and such. So I think it'll be good for the neighborhood. Yeah.
And just a question for staff, the transportation demand management measures, they are going to include, I think they're going to include, I just want confirmation that not all of the units will be able to be rented with a parking space, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. They're going to be unbundling the parking.
Okay, thank you.
To the applicant, very quickly, are all of the existing units being vacated and renovated, or just the new units?
Yeah, over time. I mean, these apartment buildings generally, like a building like this, just purely out of interest, that's in rough shape, that's sort of transient. We'll see upwards of 30 to 40% turnover per year. So we'll improve the units and restore them, make sure they comply with today's building codes, fire alarm, get rid of any asbestos and all that sort of stuff, just as they turn over time. So yeah, that's
rather than evicting the building.
Correct.
And
yeah, we don't correct. Yeah, we don't do any of that sort of stuff. The quote unquote renoviction's not our game, for sure.
That's a new word. I hadn't heard renovictions before.
Well, now
Scott.
you have.
Okay. Well, you're in the business, Steve. Scott, you had a comment?
Sorry, the reason I had asked staff about the status of the site plan had to do with the condition that was being imposed. Could somebody help me on the status of the site plan application?
You want me to answer that, Dave?
Sure. Why don't you, if you have the answer?
Yeah, it's still being reviewed. Everything's been resubmitted, we've had one round of technical comments. We're just revising the plans in terms of what the site plan is not changing. What you're seeing there is what we're moving forward with. It's just trying to get our grading and servicing and all the other engineering plans aligned with that. So I would say we're 60% of the way there.
Do you have any issue with the date imposed by city staff on when you have to have full site plan approval? June 1st of 2021.
No.
Okay.
Okay. I actually have a question for Mr. Arnold. In your participation in this process today, have some of your concerns been addressed?
Most of my concerns are to what condition the building will be in once it's finished. There was a couple of things about fencing around. I've had trespass problems over the years, and the fencing, which is quite clear in the site plan that I got from Lisa Thompson yesterday, shows clearly that there's going to be a fence around the area that encloses the back end, which is one of my main concerns when they were changing this whole building over to the front end being changed over. Now the front end for years has been empty. There has been a couple businesses in there. They didn't last long, but at this time I really have no objections to this way the site plan is going to go.
Good, sounds good. Okay, any further comments from the committee? Seeing none. Scott, you were in support of this. Was that a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I started off with this application with a number of concerns, but through staff and the applicant, I'm certainly satisfied, especially with the transportation demand management and the site plan approval with a specified date. And I think the applicant is well motivated, so I will certainly support the application, subject to the conditions recommended by staff.
Okay, someone second that?
Second that.
Jennifer or Mike? Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Looking forward to driving by a nice renovated place in the not too distant future. Carry on, guys.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Bye.
Okay. Let me see here. Next one is B 2020-045, 145, 155 Ann Street. Okay, I see the applicant is here. That would be Rebecca. Good morning.
Good morning.
My comment is this is fairly straightforward. It's just to sever two properties that accidentally merged on title. And there is one thing that I'd like to add that the region, of course, the region is asking for their regular $350 application fee. So other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. Any comments from the committee? I see Jennifer shaking her head no. I see Scott shaking his head no. I see Mike.
Sorry, I have a quick question if I can. So we have a condition on there requiring a reference plan at the discretion of the Secretary Treasurer. My understanding is that will be waived if the LRO says that they don't need one. And I've since been in contact with the LRO and they say that they don't need a reference plan because they have the separate pins. So I'm just wondering if we can remove that condition. If not, it's fine. I can just connect with the Secretary Treasurer offline. That's fine. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. Condition number 1 is what you're talking about?
Yeah, the reference plan.
Through the chair, it was at my request that the reference plan be maintained, as I cannot confirm until the transfer documents come through. I have no objection waiving the condition as been indicated to the applicant prior to the condition being written, but I don't have anything to require the applicant to provide one if the committee's decision has been made.
Julianne, you have a comment?
I would concur with Diana. Let's leave it in because it's something that's very easily to waive once Diana has the information that she needs.
That's so perfect. I just wanted to check that can be waived. Okay, thanks.
I think that's fairly standard when we're doing this kind of things. Okay, so motion to approve as is. Jennifer, seconder. Mike, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Next application is B 2020-046, 50 Fifth Avenue, not 55th Avenue, but 50 Fifth Avenue. Okay, I see that we have the applicant here.
That's right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone.
Good to see you here today electronically.
Likewise.
I'm guessing you've had an opportunity to read the staff report.
That's right.
Any questions or comments regarding that?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty straightforward for me. I'm acting as an agent for the owner. So, yeah.
Sounds good to me. Just demo existing, sever into two, and build new semi-detached. No variances are being requested. So any comments? I see Scott, you have a comment or a question.
Just a question for staff. Staff has imposed the regional fee condition, the 350, but did not impose the noise warning clauses. Just wanted to know if that was because they didn't feel they were appropriate, and what would you suggest with the noise warning clauses?
Comment from staff, Julianne?
Mr. Chair, I believe the author of the report was probably anticipating that there's going to be a $350 fee and was proactive in inserting it. It's most likely that it was in advance of having received all the regional comments. So if there's a need to impose the noise study comment or condition rather, then if the committee sees fit to impose it, then I would suggest that it be added, and then it's up to the applicant to resolve matters with the region if it's something that can be waived in the future.
Scott.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it to the applicant's attention. It's not a requirement for a noise study. It's simply
registering on title.
Registering lease agreements about noise levels about the Conestoga Parkway. So I'm prepared to add those conditions. I just wanted to bring those to the attention of the applicant.
Thank you.
Harpreet, you have a comment?
Not at all. It was clarified that it would just be something which that would be registered on title. So I understand and thank you for that.
Okay, just a noise warning clause, right? We've done that many times. Yeah. Okay, sounds straightforward. Any further comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, someone going to move it?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the application with the additional conditions requested by Mr. Hanna.
Seconder, Scott. So just very quickly, this is a motion to approve with now 13 conditions. Okay, all in favor? Motion carried.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice day.
Yes, you too.
Okay, next application is B 2020-047, 50 Brookside, and the applicant is requesting deferral. Is the applicant even here?
Through the chair, the applicant isn't here, and I have notified the neighborhood that that we're inquiring about this application, that the request was deferral till February. So just a mover and seconder for the deferral would be great.
Okay, someone want to move? Scott and Mike, all in favor? Application deferred to February 16. Okay, last application is B 2020-048, 53 Candle Crescent, looking for an easement, actually just a kind of a housekeeping issue, that the easement be included in the legal description. Is the applicant here? I see two people.
Mr. Chair, this is Carolina Pansera. I'm not the applicant, but I'm in here in support.
Okay.
Hi, I'm the counsel for the applicant. My name is Sarah Rana. Just by way of background, properties, 4-row homes, all attached to one another. Access to the rear portion, namely part 13 of the owner of the property, requires an easement over part 15 as they don't have pedestrian access to their backyard. It seems that it was just done through inadvertence. The developer, the balance of the properties all have this easement. We do have a signed authorization and direction from the owner of the home to attach the easement to the legal description of the property. So it really just is just an oversight from the developer, it seems.
Sounds straightforward to me. Okay, any comments or questions from the staff or committee members? Scott's shaking his head no. Jennifer's so okay. This seems fairly straightforward. As I said, it's just like legalizing something that was always intended to be there.
Exactly.
So can we have a motion?
I'll move
Mike.
that the application be approved.
Seconder. Scott, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that wraps it up for today. Before the committee and staff go, just a comment. Thanks very much for your participation this year. It's been a crazy year. Thanks to staff for doing